Hello, I am Nicola Ellen of Nicola Ellen Illustration, and I am a published children's book illustrator and artist. And in this video, I am going to talk you through my process from the sketches to the final book. In making this book, it's a self-published book, and I was approached by Michelle Fudge, who came to me with the poem that she wrote about her daughter when she was just a toddler. And I then put this, I've put the illustrations to it, and we've created this book. So the first thing that I did was I got the once I got the poem, I split it up into potential different pages, and just sort of see how it would fit, what might go in different work as different pages, how I might illustrate them, and just to get an idea really of how it could look, how it could start to look. It did change, the layout did change a little bit in the end, but it did mostly stay as you just saw there. I also made mood boards. With it being a fairy story, I wanted to look for some quite ethereal things. I was looking for different like colours and shapes that would fit into the fairy world. We went with Elsie-Babe being more of a cherub, little child, but I did take lots of colour shapes from these mood boards, and it just gave me a good starting point, really, because you've got to start somewhere. Sometimes it's a bit hard to know where to start. So yeah, that's where I started. And then I started to play around with faces. Some of these are a little bit scary, but I was trying to get like the cheeky child sort of the cheeks, and we wanted Elsie-Babe to have ginger curly hair, so sort of just playing with different ideas, her hair and different facial features. And there are lots of studies that I've done of these. She didn't look too dissimilar in the end, but I think she looked much nicer when you see the final book. And I did use crayons, pencil crayons and watercolor pencils to create the final look. These mushrooms, we wanted to, for the village, for the houses, we wanted to go with sort of traditional fly agaric red toadstools with little white features on them, and they do look really cute. And a lot of these shapes actually, they started quite started off like this. I looked at a lot of different pictures of fly agaric, and it's a theme that went through right to the final book. Not a lot of these houses changed too much, even though I did end up sort of making 3 versions of Elsie-Babe. It's a project that's been going on for a few years, and as my style has changed, the way I've worked has changed. It's we came to in the end I did the collage style, and as you can see in the picture here, they're very similar, the ideas, although the themes changed or the style has changed. The ideas, the toadstools didn't change that much. That was something I really enjoyed drawing right from the start. And these are some quick sketches. Some of the layouts again I sort of knew roughly how I wanted them to look, and this is where I started planning out the pages and what might sit where. It's just a quick sketch, and then over the page there is some more planning as well, in a little bit more detail, starting to map out where the words might be. As you'll see, between these and the final book, a lot of it did, some of it's similar, a lot of it's changed, and then there's some more Elsie faces. It took a long time to get her just right, where she was cute and cheeky, and yeah, it took a while to get there, but it did get there in the end. So here is that version. And yeah, I couldn't quite get the faces right. The format wasn't right either. We wanted to go with a 21 centimetre by 21 centimetre square book, so it was nice and easy to hold. As you can tell from the page there, I didn't think of that in the first place. I've learned a lot on this process. For me, although it is nice and brightly coloured, it didn't really stand out like in the way I wanted to. And you'll also notice I forgot to leave room for text. Again, something that I've learned along the way in this journey of illustrating the book. Making the illustrations more simple and just leaving room for the text. And also the characters weren't all that consistent when you see the various pictures of Elsie there. There's 3 pages here where she looks completely different in all of them. Getting it right in every picture is difficult, but the more I drew her, the more I got that. And these were the end pages that I was going to go with, which, as you can tell, are completely different. I decided to go for a map of the woods theme instead, which I think works a lot better. So this is the second version. I didn't do this one in full, but I did start to get more of an idea of what I wanted to do. Again, the pictures didn't stand out like I wanted, but we're closer here to how Elsie-Babe looks. And from there, I managed to get more of an idea of how she was going to look. With more practice from there, she became the character that she is now. So in the end, what I actually went with is more of an oil pastel based background. Some of them are colored pencils, some paint. And then that meant I could add the details in collage. And I think they popped so much nicer. And I'm really pleased with how it looked in the end. So moving on from the initial sketches, I then, once I got my layout, I decided to put it into a dummy book. So with the dummy book, it just gave me, I got 32 pages, which is the standard children's book size. I could then see how I was going to fill the pages, and it gives you an idea of how the book is going to flow as well. So you can start to see where the text will fit, whether each page follows on from each other nicely. And as you can tell, they're not the greatest drawings, but I did them nice and quick. And I've been able to refer to them a lot actually as I've gone through the process. I'm just getting an idea of how the text might sit on the page as well. So there's a lot of similarities there in that one. That is closer to the final book, but obviously the front cover changed in the end as well to feature Elsie-Babe on her own. This was the first dummy book I did, and it's got a lot of playing around with text, a lot more playing around with text. But as you can see, the ideas, they do change along the way, but there is a lot of them that actually, despite having changed my mind on the format and the materials they use, there's a lot of similarities throughout the book from very early on. So once I'd done the dummy books and I got all the plans, I just put a sort of bigger mock-up of the book together, like rough sketches, adding colour and the words where they might sit. And from seeing this, I could then decide that actually I wanted to crop some pictures, which you can see where I've marked out here, and which areas I wanted to focus on more. And in this case, I ended up merging these 2 pages together and creating a split sort of page with them both on. Some nice quick sketches just to give me an idea of what colours could go where and what words were going to sit with each page. This one actually was one of my favourite pages because I'm very fond of typography. I love love text. So I was actually disappointed to cut this out in the end, but it didn't quite fit in the book in the end. But mostly the pages are similar, but I did end up adding, merging some pages together and creating sort of different illustrations in the end. There's the end covers again. So that gave me a good idea of how the book would look at its actual size. And so I did simplify the illustrations a lot in the end. And I left a lot of blank spaces to account for the text, which, as you saw in the first one, I didn't do, as you can see here. So left space on the trees in this case. So it's nice and clear, easy for a child to read. Sometimes it did feel like there was wasted space on the page, but actually when you start to fill the text in those spaces, it actually comes together really nicely. And again, see with this one, balancing the text and the design out. So obviously the words are as important as the illustrations, and they sit really nicely there amongst the fairy trails. And again, I felt like there was such a big block of wasted space there, but that was a good space for adding the text in there, as you can see. So it's a fine balance. Leaving space for the text. It certainly makes you feel like there's details missing at times, but it really does come together once you get it into the computer. I find works for me, but of course there are some amazing books too that are full of detail and text as well. So from all that planning, I cut the pages to size, as you can see here. So the book is 21 by 21 centimeters. I did them in the spread, so that's 21 by 42 centimeters. Made it nice and easy to scan up and make it the right size in the computer, rather than having to scale it up, scale it down. And I basically did all the backgrounds in either pencil, paint, or oil pastels, which were my favourite things to use that gives such nice coverage. And then I was able to add the details like in pencil, crayons and inks, and I used watercolour pencils as well. And they really made the details pop out. So you got the little signs for the map where Elsie-Babe's hideout is, where the wood is, a little boat, a little petal red carpet going up to the castle, Fairy King's castle, and the little toadstools as well. And again, just adding the nice little natural details, the toadstools, and the nice pen fairy trails. You've got a little moth that hangs about in each page, and it's nice adding the little like sort of nature details. A little worm there, teasing the blackbird as well throughout the book, butterflies as well. I love drawing the toadstools as well. I think they stand out really nicely. They were a lot of fun to make, especially like the extra characters, adding in the little details, little insects and animals around and about the book. So it took a lot of patience from here to scan these all into the computer at high resolution. And I found the process of getting it into computer and adding the text was really it was really difficult for me. Like it took a long time just to get it right, and make it easy for children to read, make sure everything balances and stands out properly. And I actually did this in Canva in the end, and they make it really easy to do. And you can do most of it for free as well. So the one thing you want to do though is take your time on it, because the last thing you want to do is put all that effort into making a really nice book and then finding that actually you've not done a good job of the book. It's worth taking your time and making something that you're really proud of, which in this case I absolutely am. I'm thrilled with how it looks. Obviously, everybody's process is different, and I'm sure people go about this very differently to me too. But this is a process I've found that works for me, and when I do another book in the future, it is what is the process I'll use again, I'm sure. This is a self-published book, so what I will do is another video soon explaining the process, and how that was for me. And I'll also link in the bottom of this video, I will put some links to the blog posts I've done for this as well.